So the reason why I haven't shot a top 10 Zara fragrances video yet is because it's so hard to keep up with Zara. Releasing fragrances and tons of them, and discontinuing them, tons of them. So new fragrances come, old fragrances are discontinued, you just can't keep up. But finally I have 10 fragrances here that are currently selling on their website. So I'm doing a top 10 Zara fragrances video for you today. If you're interested in finding out what they are, then please stay tuned. Thanks so much for tuning in. This is Sebastian. Yes, today we're talking about Zara fragrances. And yes, as I was saying, it's really hard to keep up with this house, even though they release some pretty decent releases and they have some very well-known perfumers behind the fragrances. So they're pretty quality for the price. But damn, you can't keep up with this brand because you don't know what is supposedly in stock and out of stock, discontinued, not discontinued. It's just really difficult. And I'm kind of surprised that a lot of the Jo Malone fragrances that has, launched from Zara are still selling. That's kind of surprising for me, but some of them did get discontinued. Most of them are here. So today I'm doing a top 10 list. A lot of them do seem to be Jo Malone creations, but there are other perfumers here that I'm going to mention as well. And some of the fragrances I don't know who the perfumers are. But let's go ahead and get started. The first fragrance we're going to talk to you about is Elegantly Tokyo from 2021. It's a Jo Malone created fragrance. And this one, out of all of those city fragrances, at least the one that came in the big kit I did a video on, my favorite as of now is Elegantly Tokyo. What I like about this one is the combination of the jasmine and the lily with the Akigalawood. So the Akigalawood is this note that Quinton Biche uses quite a bit of in his fragrances, and it's here, and it kind of gives me the characteristic of patchouli, woods, earthy, maybe a little bit of oudi funk, but it's nicely meshed with the jasmine and the lily here. So you've got kind of like the masculine side and the feminine side together, and I think they work really well here. So this is, I actually have the tiny bottles. I bought the big kit when they came out with like 7 or 8 cities. Out of the whole entire kit, my favorites turned out to be Elegantly Tokyo. And if you buy the 75 ml bottle, it's $39.90. So this one is probably the only fragrance that's smaller than other bottles, because a lot of the fragrances I'm going to talk to you about today are 90 ml bottles. This one in general is a 75 ml for $39.90. So it was a 2021 launch, and it's from Jo Malone created fragrance. So next we're going to talk to you about Fleur d'Oranger. So this was the first drop of the Jo Malone fragrances. Everybody was really excited. It came out in 2019. And here we have a 90 ml, not a traditional 100 ml. And once again, it's $39.90. So a lot of the fragrances from Jo Malone seem to be simplistic, like this one and several others I'm going to talk to you about. And I feel like they're perfect fragrances to be layered with. Not only fragrances from the same collections or from Jo Malone in general, I mean, not Jo Malone, Zara fragrances in general, but you can also layer them with other fragrances. For example, Fleur d'Oranger, it's a 2019 launch. It features notes of orange blossom, neroli, Ylang-Ylang. So not a lot of notes credited, and yes, you can experience that. It's not necessarily thick, dense notes. It wears pretty simplistic. It's perfect. It's not heavy. And Fleur d'Oranger basically is orange blossom, and you've got not only orange blossom and neroli here, you've got basically the same flower, different extraction processes, which is when you do one way it's orange blossom, another way is neroli, and then you've got that kind of yellow, slightly tropical flower that's in here as well, which creates for a citrusy, fresh, Ylang-Ylang kind of floral thing. A bit tropical at the same time, but more maybe solar instead of tropical here with the Ylang-Ylang, but quite beautiful fragrance. Unfortunately, it's ended up at the bottom because I appreciate the other ones a little better. But if you're looking for a very inexpensive, orange blossom neroli fragrance, I think this will do just fine. It's a great scent on its own. It smells really, really great. And that's why I'm featuring it here. So this is Fleur d'Oranger from Zara. And that's at number 9. So the reason I have a black bottle, or black bottles in general, from this collection, they had a special promotion when I bought these. It came with a 15 ml and a 90 ml. The 15 ml was free. It was during the pandemic, so you had more juice for the price of one bottle. They don't have the black bottles anymore. They only come in white bottles now. So if you're questioning that, I just wanted to tell you guys why I have the black bottles. They're not necessarily meaning masculine ones versus feminine ones for black and white kind of a thing. So there was just a promotion, I think that's what I remember. But the next fragrance at number 8 is AMALFI Sunray. And AMALFI Sunray and Fleur d'Oranger, that's the wrong one, let's see, where is the Fleur d'Oranger? This is the Fleur d'Oranger. So both of these are kind of somewhat similar, but with the AMALFI Sunray, you're going to have more of a solar experience here. You've got lots of bergamot here, mandarin orange and orange flower. So this is basically the citrus tree come alive when you're wearing it, but it's more solar. There's definitely the sunny kind of solar touch in here, which creates for a very happy, uplifting, bright, and like loose and kind of just very chill kind of a vibe for this fragrance. I could, associate this with kind of a beachiness because, it's Amalfi Coast, Sunray, all of that kind of go hand in hand with the notes in here. So it's very easy to wear. And once again, it's a very simplistic. So I can combine these two together, Fleur d'Oranger and Amalfi Sunray. And I think you would create something a little unique. Not necessarily because they're both very similar, but I kind of enjoy the Amalfi Sunray just a little more because it does give me a little more interesting thing, whereas the Fleur d'Oranger seems a little more simplistic than the Amalfi Sunray. But both of them are really, really great. And I didn't tell you the price. This is another Jo Malone creation, 2019, and it's $39.90 for the 90 ml bottle. So up next, we're going to go to Tobacco Collection Rich Warm Addictive, the 2021 edition. The original in 2016 is the first fragrance I ever reviewed from Zara on the channel. And so that's kind of what kickstarted a lot of things. I did that review back then, and then all of a sudden there was a ton of fragrances sold. Nobody was able to find this fragrance anywhere. And it was kind of like, the kickstarting the whole Zara fragrance thing. But around that time I realized that it's not really easy to keep up with Zara fragrances. I feel like they do keep some fragrances for sure, like the Jo Malone collections, a lot of them are there still, but they discontinue a lot, which is really difficult to keep up with. So this is the 2021 edition. I don't know who the perfumer is, they've never credited it. It's 100 ml for $25.90. Vanilla, bourbon, white peony, rum is what the notes are for this one. For me, I definitely get a coconutty touch. There's a milky lactonic thing happening in here as well, but in the end it's definitely very vanilla. It's a vanilla fragrance with light floral touches, and of course the booziness. When the original had just launched, a lot of people thought it smelled like Herod from Parfums de Marly. I never thought that. It might have hinted at it a little bit, but they have changed it here. I don't get tobacco with this fragrance in the end. It's not a tobacco-ish fragrance, so it's kind of like misnamed, but what you get is really cozy and expensive budget kind of vanilla fragrance, which is really yummy, I think. So Tobacco Collection Rich Warm Addictive is the 7th fragrance. And this fragrance, yes, it has simplistic touches. You can layer with other notes, but you got to find something that's a lot stronger to layer with this. Woods, ouds would probably be the perfect notes to layer with the Tobacco Collection Rich Warm Addictive, because other notes like citruses are going to kind of completely disappear against this because it's a very thick and kind of syrupy vanilla, so it's not really meant for layering. But you can with some really sturdy and durable, like tough woods. Patchouli might work as well, but either way, that's Rich Warm Addictive number 7. And speaking of sturdy, durable kind of woods kind of a thing, this next fragrance I think would layer perfectly fine with the Rich Warm Addictive. This is Fleur de Patchouli. Once again, going back to another Jo Malone creation. It's a 90 ml, $39.90, launched in 2019. This fragrance I think would layer perfectly fine with the 2 citruses that I talked to you about, Fleur d'Oranger and also Amalfi Sunray. I think the patchouli would add some depth to the fragrance, an earthiness, a woodiness, because it's all fresh notes on those 2 fragrances. It would balance it out a little bit. I think you can totally do that if you want that little patchouli touch. But on its own, Fleur de Patchouli is very simplistic and minimalistic, but it features lots of patchouli with peony flower and gaiac wood. So you've got woods in there, lots of earthiness from the patchouli, the woodsiness of course. There's definitely spiciness here, but in the end it's got floral touches and fresh touches as well, because the peony is a flower, it's a fresh flower, so you've got that complexity here, but it's not very complex, of course. It's very simplistic. Definitely a perfect note to layer fragrances with, and I think if you want, or you like patchouli, you want some patchouli depth in your simplistic fragrances, I think this is a great fragrance, not only to wear on its own as a simplistic fragrance, but to layer with. So I'm putting a Fleur de Patchouli here at number 6. I really do enjoy it. The next one I'm going to talk to you about is the one that has just come out recently. It's Majestic Green from the perfumer Fabrice Pellegrin. So Fabrice Pellegrin is a perfumer over at Firmenich, and we've got 2 fragrances from him in this video. This is a 2023 launch. I think there's several fragrances from this series. I believe there's a Nathalie Larson created one as well. Seems like she's doing quite a bit. There's also the Alberto Moria's fragrances that were done for Zara, and he's also part of Firmenich. But this is 100 ml, $39.90. This is a decantable bottle, as you can see right here. You can get more juice, I guess, to fill up. And I like these bottles. They remind me of a brand from Germany, and I forgot those bottles, the brand name, but the cover reminds me of it. But I quite like this bottle. It's very nice looking to me. It's looking like a bit more expensive than, you know, your typical Zara fragrances for a bottle like this. But this is $39.90. It's vanilla, sandalwood, cardamom, cedar, and pepper. So it's a vanillic fragrance. It's $39.90 for 100 ml. Did I say that? So Fabrice Pellegrin, I recently mentioned for Diptyque's Eau Duelle. He created that fragrance. And if you see his name and you see vanilla come up, you might think that this might smell like Eau Duelle. I don't get the similarities quite a bit. In fact, the only thing I get with this one is the vanilla. And it's kind of on the medicinal side of vanilla. So I feel like the cardamom and the sandalwood create for this kind of creamy medicinal touch. That's what I was experiencing when I was wearing Majestic Green. But in the end, it's vanilla with lots of woods and spices. So that's definitely prominent here. You definitely experience it. But if you like the idea of that, I think you should definitely try it. This one has more depth than some of the Jo Malone fragrances I just discussed. I don't know if I would be able to layer this with some of the stuff that I've already mentioned. Maybe the patchouli to add more woody depth, but I feel like Majestic Green has a lot of depth already. And you know, I kind of I'm not really understanding where the name green comes from. Is it from the cardamom? I don't know, but either way, I like this one. I don't love it too much, and I like the fact that the vanilla doesn't smell like Eau Duelle, because there's a lot of perfumers copying themselves for one brand and then, you know, creating a cheaper version for another brand. And even though this might look like it might go in that direction, it doesn't totally remind me of Eau Duelle. So this is pretty good here at number 5. It's Majestic Green. And up next, it is For Him Red Edition, and it's, even though it's called For Him Red Edition, I think a woman can totally pull this one off. This one I actually smelled on someone, and the way it was projecting off of them and the way it was leaving a trail. Once again, it was a taxi driving or riding situation. This time I smelled it on somebody in Europe, and I had to ask him what he was wearing because it smelled super fantastic on him. Really nice, you know, sillage. It was trailing off of him, and I was like, you're gonna have to tell me. He goes, it's a cheapie from Zara. It just came out, he said. So I ended up buying a bottle, and I'm not disappointed with this one. It's quite nice, and again, it can be worn by a woman as well. 100 ml for $35.90, no perfumer. It has notes of orange, amber, and Evernil. And Evernil is a synthetic form of oak moss, so it does have a bit of an oak mossy touch here. But for me, the amber is more like ambroxan. Definitely creates an ambery presence, and then it also hints a little bit at something like Baccarat Rouge, plus it's kind of like reddish right there. So they're kind of going in that direction where you might think it might smell like Baccarat Rouge. It does to me, but it's not like the total clone of Baccarat Rouge. It's hints at it a little bit, plus it adds the oak moss to it and the orangey sweetness in there. So in the end, it's ambery, it's mossy, it's earthy, musky, green, citrusy, and sweet. So that is For Him Red Edition. I like that one. It's not a beastly fragrance, that's the only other thing I should say, but it doesn't wear beastly on me, so it doesn't have a lot of projection. But as I said, I discovered it by somebody wearing it, and it smelled so fantastic on him, I had to ask him what he was wearing. So moving on to the next fragrance, this is another one from Jo Malone created. It's VETIVER Pamplemousse. I really love this one. Really absolutely love this one. It's a 2019 launch. It's Joe Malone. It's 90 ml for $39.90. So this is another simplistic fragrance. I think you can also wear the FLEUR de Patchouli with this one like layered together, so you'd add a little more earthy depth. Patchouli and vetiver go perfectly fine together, so here it only has the notes of grapefruit, mandarin orange, and vetiver, so it's totally citrusy and earthy vetiver. So when you add that patchouli in there, I think it would create something unique and interesting, and also extend the life a little bit to add more depth to the fragrance. And for me, I feel like grapefruit and vetiver really go perfectly together, because vetiver also has grapefruity touches, and of course when you add the grapefruit to the vetiver, it accentuates the grapefruitiness in the vetiver that it exists there. So again, it's simplistic but smells fantastic. It's vetiver pamplemousse from Joe Malone, created for Zara. So I forgot to mention at the beginning of the video that one of the things I don't like about Zara fragrances are their sprayers and also the packing. So sometimes when I order things, because I can never find fragrances here, I always have to mail order it to be shipped at Zara, and I go pick it up. And sometimes the packaging is broken. But what I really don't like about Zara's bottles are the sprayers. The bottles are nice. They have some really nice looking bottles, I think. But they have some of the cheapest looking cheapest sprayers. They don't spray very well. They kind of get stuck and things like that. And sadly, this is one of those bottles. But this is a great scent. Sacred Green Forest, a 2022 launch. And it's part of a collection of 3 Zara Forest Green fragrances, and this is one that I ended up buying for $45.90 when I placed an order, and then now I'd see it online because I went to take my notes down for these fragrances. This is selling for about 40% less, so it's discounted, or just I think maybe they're clearing them out just like this. So it's still out there, get it, but it won't be around for too long almost. Like it's created by Fabrice Pellegrin, once again, same as this perfumer for Majestic Green. This is Sacred Green Forest, and then it also has a joint perfumer Coralie Spiker. So this is 100 ml for $45.90. This is the most expensive so far. All fragrances are getting, jacking up with the prices, unfortunately, even Zara, and I think this is the most expensive I've seen from Zara. But it's vanilla, jasmine, incense, Ylang-Ylang. So those are the only notes they mention here. For me, I definitely get a green touch, but in this particular case, it's like we've got incense and kind of forest-like touches here, but it's not nicely meshed with sweet vanilla, so it kind of creates for a powdery touch, smoky touch, earthy, and then also woody and vanillic. But under there, I feel like there's some greens that are kind of like not even opened up yet. Like it's like just the early part of spring. They haven't blossomed yet, or got them out of the ground or something. But there's definitely some greens there. But in the end, it's more flowers and vanilla and an incense, and there's the green touches. It is called Sacred Green Forest, and as I said, there's definitely green touches like almost coming through, not quite, but in the end, it's a really nice fragrance. It smells fantastic, and the combination really does wonderfully work. So vanilla and incense really does great jobs. This does not smell like baby cat, by the way, totally not, even though they have similar notes. And then of course the yellow flower, Ylang-Ylang, and the beautiful white flower of jasmine really does accentuates the fragrance to smell fantastic. So this is great. As I said, this is currently selling at a discounted price online. So get yourself a bottle if you like the idea. In fact, what I'm going to do is probably order the other 2 in the series for that price. I'd like to have them because I smelled them when I was traveling. I never bought them, but now that they're on sale, definitely worth having. And then finally, the number 1 fragrance. This is the best fragrance I've smelled from Zara, hands down. This is Zara's Leather Jardin, this one right here. Once again, created by Joe Malone, a 2021 launch. This is a 90 ml for $39.90. In fact, I'm going to order a couple more of these. This is going to be backups. This fragrance is super fantastic. If you are at all into vintage fragrances, go get yourself a bottle. This smells amazing. It smells so vintage and so classic that I'm drooling over this fragrance and how good the quality is. It's a 90 ml for $39.90. It features notes of leather, rose, and grapefruit. So those are the only notes they mention. I feel like there's an overdose of galbanum here that's not being mentioned here. I totally get galbanum. It's like a green bitterness that's really there with the leather, citrusy touches, and then of course the floral touches of the rose. So there's definitely that in there, which is kind of reminding me a little bit of Chanel number 19 or something that uses a lot of galbanum. Let me try it one more time for you guys. It's just a delightful fragrance. Oh man, takes me back to the 80s, takes me back to the 70s, maybe early 90s. She did such a great job with this one. You know what it reminds me of a little bit? It reminds me of Cartier's, one of the Cartier feminine fragrances, Must de Cartier. If you guys like that fragrance for the women, you gotta try this one. It's so good, so good. This is amazing. Like I said, if you like vintage fragrances, get yourself a bottle now. I don't know if they'll keep this fragrance because sometimes when they launch these fragrances from Zara individually, they get discontinued unless they're launched as a big group. Like they had a Dior Homme Intense kind of a clone thing. That's no longer. I'm definitely ordering a couple more bottles of this one, but it's Zara Leather Jardin, and that's the #1 Zara fragrance for you guys. Let me know your thoughts on these fragrances. Are you familiar with them? Do you have them? Have you been wanting them? Are you a fan of Zara fragrances? Maybe you don't like them. Let me know. Put a comment down so I can find out. Either way, guys, thanks so much for watching today's video. If you have any questions or comments, please list below. Please like this video, please share it. Follow me on Instagram and Facebook, and I'll be back with more videos very soon. Have a good one. Goodbye. So as a bonus option, or a couple of bonus options, this is one that you guys had asked me to buy because there were a lot of fans of this one. I still have not been able to get into it. Zara's Ebony Wood. I don't know what it is about this one. It just doesn't excite me. So I'm putting it here as a bonus option, but I know a lot of you are fans of it. It's once again $39.90. It launched or dropped with the first initial Jo Malone fragrances drop from 2019. It's Ebony Wood, Cloves, and Pink Pepper. Not very exciting for me, so that's why I'm putting it here as a bonus option. And then for the longest time, Vibrant Leather was on the website. I can't find it on the website, and I don't have much left of mine. This is a 2018 launch. It's Jerome Epinay created, and Jerome Epinay created a fragrance for Wilhelm Parfumerie that smells similar to this. I forgot the name of it right now, but it's kind of like your Aventus clone kind of a thing. It's bergamot with bamboo and leather. I really think it's a great fragrance. This, on the other hand, I think it's 120 ml or 125 ml, but I don't have a price for it because it's not currently on the Zara website. So I'll have to go see if this is in the store. I don't have a lot left, but just putting it as a bonus option for you guys if you are looking for a Zara, well, actually I should say an Aventus clone. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. Have a good one. Bye-bye.